This may help. All right. So this first part is from the chapter 12, is the one that's the not for ESOL teachers that I told you about. It's kind of an older text, but it is important to know that because of cultural dynamics and because of the way the background information and the schooling information, and we do the international education report to kind of get an idea of this, like cultures and countries and school systems have different expectations and have different resources and all of that for parents. And so when parents come to the States, especially immigrant parents from other, or even just all of their own schooling was in another country. So even if they live here, maybe permanently, but their own experience is from education in another country, they're coming with that as the forefront. So they need to know, there needs to be some communication where you're advocating for these parents to know that they have the right, that parents have rights, the rights to free and public education for their kids, for free and appropriate public education. They have the right to receive information in a language they can understand. So whether that be translated or verbally translated or written translation, they have the right to be informed. These are all parents in America. This is part of it. The right to be informed, to understand, to offer consent or objection before any educational decisions are made about their children. They have the right to be included in disciplinary discussions and actions that concern their children. Sorry about the typo. They have the right to understand and appeal decisions that they don't agree with. And they have the right to actively participate in informational meetings for parents, the public, and school personnel. Now, this seems very pushy to parents who are from a background that is very authoritative, or where education is seen as like the decision maker and the respecter of that. Like, I don't really have a lot of control over what is going on. If I choose to put my children in school there, then that's what I submit to. But in the States, that public education still includes a lot of parental rights. There are even, like, there are required meetings that parents have to have with or that personnel have to have with parents in certain contexts, right? Like, I know that if your child has an IEP for special needs, I don't know what the rule is for having a 504 plan. That's what my son has, but we meet once a year. I respond immediately when they say, let's go over the plan. We set up a time and go, but I have a friend who teaches an inclusion classroom, a fully inclusion classroom for special needs. And she is required to reach out 3 or 4 times to meet with the parents of those students to go over their education plan before she can say that they were not reachable. Like, she has to have, I think it's 3 times that she has to have she's either stood up or ignored or something that she can do. And I don't know if that's everyone. I don't know how that specifically works, but if my other children who don't have plans, if I needed to speak to the teacher, I have the right at any point to send a message and set up a meeting, ask for a meeting. Now, there are some, well, we'll get, I think it comes up in just a little bit. So, but this can be surprising for a lot, like, oh, I can decide that that's not acceptable to discipline in that way, or, oh, I can kind of give input in what's best. That feels invasive. They feel, parents of non-native speakers feel like that's a little overboard for them. There are some points, but honestly, I've not read anything. Some of the points that I'm talking about here, translating school announcements, having an adult bilingual interpreter, inviting parents to the schools to visit, utilizing the school library, or having a media center for bilingual resources. There are some schools who have enough resources. I know that the Biloxi and the Gulfport school systems have a large EL populations, and so they have some access for their public libraries to participate in, like, family literacy and those kind of things. Those take a lot of, or some kind of buddy system, asking them to come in. All of these things I think we hear about, and it's tricky to me. I'm just going to tell you where I get a little not critical in a bad way, but clearly, if everywhere you're looking and the question is how to get parents involved, and you see the same list, clearly somebody thinks they're great ideas. But something's not working if everyone still keeps asking, how can we get parents involved, right? like there's a disconnect somewhere there. And I honestly believe that some of it is within the relational components of explaining to your immigrant and non-native parents. The other thing is that parents need to know is, and this is interesting, Cynthia, I don't know how Morton handles this after all of the ICE raids and things like that, but a school is a safe place where the teachers and the administration do not have to know if your legal status, right? So like, we will teach your children if, and not, we do not need to know if they're documented or not. And so, but parents don't trust that. Right? Like, so sometimes parents stay far away out of fear of outing themselves from some sort of documentation or a document status situation. And so needing those advocates to say, no, really, this is safe, or you have to build the trust with the school system to know, oh, that principal, he's cool. He's not looking to get me, right? But even as we were talking earlier, certain cultures, certain personalities, people's history and their own trauma, don't trust that. You know what I mean? Like, now it's my understanding, please correct me, but those ICE raids did not happen at the school. Now people came and got their students. You want to talk, I feel, Cynthia, you want to clarify anything for me?
Actuality, it happened at Cook Foods, which is the largest chicken plant in Morton. But what happened at our schools is that family members, people at the chicken plant would text or call members at home saying, okay, go get the kids from school. So we would have family members come and pick the kids up.
Like a mass exodus of children.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. That's what it was at the school.
And that's an interesting and tricky place, because the school is meant to be a safe place, right? But the fear, and if this has happened here and here and here, so there's some lack of true communicating that the school is not out to get your kids, right? The school is not out to be an immigration office, but there's historical story, and all of the stories kind of give doubt to that sometimes. So how do teachers really create that safety net for parents to know that this is safe, this is okay? Let's talk a little bit about now in our own text, if you want to look at this anytime, close partnerships between families and educators, those things, that connection can create success. The way that American school systems have designed themselves is that that's necessary, that's helpful, is that there's a partnership and we work together. And we see this in statistics. We see this in children who have higher graduation rates, have more involved parents. Kids who do like academically better in school, like grade wise, have parents who help them with their homework, or like, so whatever the connection is. But it is important, I think, to what is the difference between something like participation versus involvement, right? Those nuances in what this looks like. The word involvement kind of means, it kind of gives this connotation that the school is acting upon the families, rather than that the parents are participating with them in more of a relationship. The other thing we have to be careful with, and this is not just our non-native or our EL students or our immigrant families, but what makes someone a family, right? We've used this term. So we actually have a child at our church. I go to a church with like 35 people, so it's really a tiny group of people who meet at the YMCA. But there is a family who has been given guardianship. So she's not technically adopted, but she's been given guardianship. And this girl, she's going in 5th grade, her mother still has visitation rights. So she still goes and sees her biological mother, but her mother's not in a position to take care of her. And so the two people, our friends who are caring for her, are her legal guardians who, do everything for her. So they sign her up, they go everywhere, but it's still tricky to call them her parents, right? It also seems very formal to call them her guardians, and they don't have the same last name. And so what does that look like? And my friend, the mom, and I say mom, but but she says that that's kind of a hard thing for the girl, because she feels like she's rejecting her biological mother by calling my friend Ashley her mom. And if people say, where are your parents? She doesn't always know how to answer that, because like, which parents do you mean? And so we've started, even our kids have started this, because she's been here for about a year. We just call everyone their grown-ups, right? Like, so we say to her, like, so, hey, so if my daughter and her other friend who lives with her biological parents, and they say, can we go play in the soccer room? We say, well, did Hazel ask her grownups, right? And we'll say to Shamir, did Shamiria ask her grownups? And so trying to choose language that feels inclusive, it's a shift. It's a whole shift in acknowledging that. But we've grown a lot in the family unit has changed a lot, but this goes into, and I don't know what your political stances on anything or religious stances on any of this is, but this goes into people who have two mommies, two daddies. If they live with their grandparents, they live with their auntie. Like, these are people who family is not just, you know, a mother, a biological mother and a father. And so I really, really, really think that, especially when we have intergenerational families, we really need to consider how we're going to use language that feels inclusive. And don't hear me, I don't even know where you guys stand on all this, but I'm just saying, anytime I use the word inclusive, I feel this like tension of, oh, that's leftist wokeism, right? But do you want the children in your classes to feel included and safe? That's the way we need to think about the word inclusive right now. Okay, like, that's the context for right now. How do we make this child feel like they're a part of this group and they can be themselves and bring their whole selves here? So that may mean figuring out how to change our language when we're talking about families. So there you go. Sorry about that. Parental participation, the type of parental participation, I think, matters as well. Again, the US system was set up for parent and community control to be part of the setup. If the culture places a high status on a teacher or finds the role of education to take the place is part of the school's options, then the parents are reluctant to engage, which is something I said previously. There are parental other factors that are limiting that parental involvement. Some of the things I kind of have listed are like restrictive scheduling. This is something that I've run into for myself. Only being able to meet the teacher during a specific off period that they have during the day, or right before or right after school. 7:30 a.m. if a parent needs to be at work at 8 is hard. You know, if the teacher's break is at 10:15, that's hard, right? Or right after school at 2:45. None of those work around someone being able to take a lunch break or meeting afterwards. And I don't know the answer to that, because teachers can't just, I think Zoom has probably helped a ton. Having virtual meetings will help with this a lot. Another thing that limits things is when the teachers or the school is unwelcoming to siblings tagging along. I've had notes sent home saying only one parent, no siblings, XYZ. I've also had teachers who on back to school night have a younger kid set up in the corner. So your younger kids can go over here if they promise to stay, you know, play quietly or however it is, or if you don't allow younger siblings to be in the conversation. If the attitude or the communication from the school doesn't take part of the responsibility, like the parent feels blamed more than shared in something that their kids are doing or not doing, that is really hard, especially because you're probably poking at their shame already, right? Like why their child is not at the right reading level or something like that. They probably already feel that. So the way that we communicate that, and then whether or not they just generally feel welcome or their own experiences in school. So these are things that play a role. Now, cultural deficit view. I don't know if I've talked about this a ton, but cultural deficit view is essentially starting off with a bias that certain types of cultures or certain types of families are bringing something negative to the table, right? Like you already kind of begin there. And so this group has a deficit that they're coming in with. A lot of times you'll hear things like, oh, well, those families don't care about this, or their children never do this, right? So when we clump people in and we start making those stereotypical statements, that will absolutely inhibit growth and positive involvement. But here's a word: funds of knowledge. If we can use the parents and the family's funds of knowledge, that's a resource. Their fund of knowledge is essentially the bank account in their capacity that holds all the things that they know. They know things that you don't know. Here's what I'm learning as a parent. I think I know my child the best. And sometimes the things I want to tell the teacher, right? Like I want to go to today, for example, my middle child has a lot of perfectionism and anxiety and things like that. And I want to go to the camp counselor when we meet. I don't know if I will. I'm just telling you, this is something that I think about when I go to, this is similar to whenever I'm taking them to a new teacher or new school, and say, hey, if he wakes up, or if it's bedtime and he gets up 5 times to go to the bathroom right before bed, I'm talking within a 30-minute period, he is just nervous. He is afraid. He thinks he's going to wet the bed. He's never wet the bed. He does not have a bedwetting problem. He gets just so anxious, and all he feels is the urge to pee, right? And he thinks, oh my gosh, I have to pee. I better pee, because what if I don't? And then I wet the bed. It's a made up thing. We know it's in his head. So I want to tell this counselor, if he does that, then that's a hint to you that he's anxious. Also, if you get on to him immediately and say, if y'all get up again, you're going to be in trouble, then I want to tell this counselor how to do their job, right? With my baby. Would that be helpful? Maybe. But you know what I've also learned working with teachers who are very experienced. Now, this is a counselor and it may be their first time, and I might tell them this, but I don't know yet what I'll do. But I've also gone and told teachers who have worked with children for years and years and years, and I thought what I was telling them is what they need to do, but they have experience and they know that their child acts differently with them than they do at home, right? Like they want me to trust that, hey, I got this. I've worked with children like yours before. I promise that even if I don't do it exactly like you want me to do it, or you think I'm supposed to do it, that I'm doing it in the best interest of your child, right? And I have other methods that may work as well. There's an interesting dynamic, right, between where someone's fund of knowledge should be listened to and respected, and where there's a space to say, yes, but we're in a different context right now. That same thing happens with cultural knowledge, right? Where the parent, and you want to say, oh, how do we do this? And how do we do this? And how do we do this? But as the EL instructor, you cannot fully engage in 20 cultures at one time. So you also have the role to create a classroom culture, right? But you want to take these things, the funds of knowledge of the families, into consideration when developing what the new classroom role and culture looks like. Am I making sense? Because I feel like that was like a mom tangent. The quote that I'm talking about on page 235 is really just that it's an insert at the very top of the page. It's like the first full sentence, and it says, if parents are viewed as central to education's goal and essential players in their child's education, then parents will feel as though their input is highly valued and respected. Parents feel empowered to get involved in their children's education in new and fundamentally different ways. And I believe, as a parent to children who are in the school system, that even if the teacher doesn't actually do or think or say all the stuff I do, when I'm heard, when someone says, I hear you, then it makes me feel 10 times better, and I'm more apt to like continue to engage. If a teacher has responded to me based on my older child's like 504 plan and said, oh no, he's fine, and kind of dismisses the concerns I have, even though he probably is fine, I kind of shut down from that teacher a little bit. Like, she doesn't want my input. She doesn't want my input. If she doesn't want my input about this, then maybe she also doesn't want my input when I'm like, hey, let's have a Hawaiian party and I'll bring all of the, fruit kebabs or whatever. I don't know where that came from. I've never brought fruit kebabs to a thing in my life. But do you see what I'm saying? Like one relational shutdown can shut down other areas as well. So how do schools and families become mutually supportive? There are, so essentially we have three, this is really not going to be long. I'm going to walk through this quickly, but you'll see here there are three different options. This first one is if the person is bilingual and bicultural and you want a homeschool partnership. The second slide is for if there is a different language and homeschool partnership and what needs to be used and said, right? So bilingual, bicultural, this is where it's easy if both the school and the teacher can share the same language and the same culture with the family. It doesn't always happen. Myra has a fantastic advantage, right? That she speaks Spanish and can communicate in Spanish if needed. That's so rare. Or it doesn't help her if she has a Vietnamese student, right? Like it doesn't help. We can't know all of the languages, but honestly, in an area where Cynthia is, where the culture around her is predominantly Hispanic teachers who are also bilingual and bicultural are a benefit to the school as a whole, right? Does that make sense? Do you guys have a lot of those? Cynthia, do you have a lot of teachers who speak Spanish?
No, we don't. For our how our campus is, we have the K2 buildings and 3-4 where I'm at. And then the high school's on one campus and our middle school is across town on another campus. We have one translator for K-4 and 9-12.
And you have hundreds of Spanish speakers.
Yes. And then they have one translator at the middle school across town. So that's all we have.
Wow. That's a lot. Okay. All right. So when you have bilingual, you could have easier time to make phone calls, bilingual newsletters, allowing biliteracy in the text. And we'll talk about biliteracy. You guys are in actually a perfect setting. When you have 25% or more of one home language, that would be a perfect opportunity to kind of bring in some biliterate and bilingual programming for your English speakers. How do you value heritage language and allow people to speak, and also having cultural differences within the generation, like respecting that. Now, when you don't speak, this is where we really land more. First of all, we need to know what resources the family has access to and in what languages. Like I said, my friend Reem was like, I just wish they wouldn't send that home in Arabic because my husband speaks English better. And I have a lot of friends at the school who speak English. And if I don't understand, I can ask them to translate. That takes a conversation to say what is most helpful to you. I think, let me just state this, that takes a conversation at the beginning, but it takes a conversation again midway through like almost every 9 weeks, because things change and they recognize, oh, that would have been more helpful if I had that translated. I thought I wouldn't need it, but I did, or I thought I did need it, but it's okay, I don't. Using your classroom knowledge. I actually really like, no, that's a different, no. I love this one. Jamie's father, uncle, and sometimes older brother worked together to install marble countertops in kitchens. Mrs. Montañez, Jamie's 3rd grade teacher, sent home a request for Jamie to bring small samples to the class of marble used in the installations, along with some of the names and types of marble, right? So parents are trade workers doing this. The class took time to search where in the world marble quarries can be found and how the marble travels to their town. Then everyone in the class measured their own kitchen tables and counters and calculated how much it would cost to convert that area to marble. Jamie was proud to be the inspiration for a lesson in geography, geology, and math, right? His father, uncle, and brother all came to the class's open house presentations on the world of marble, right? Using, like, you have to know what their families have, what those knowledge pieces are. The third thing here, the gatekeeper. This is something that a lot of, from a PD that I did here in Clinton, a lot of teachers have come back and said that this is what they did. Most teachers have what they call like a homeroom parent, and they kind of depend on that person for a lot. The gatekeeper does not necessarily need to be a homeroom parent. Let me clarify that. But a gatekeeper is someone who, for example, me, if I'm not the homeroom mom, definitely not the homeroom mom type. I don't know if y'all have picked up on that yet, but I do enjoy learning about other cultures, and I seem to be open to talking to lots of different people. And so I can be what we would consider a gatekeeper, which means if there's communication early in the year, the teacher could come to me and say, hey, I noticed that, you seem to know a lot of people in Clinton, or blah, 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 whatever you want to say to open it up, and say, we have Juan is in our class, and his family are immigrants from Honduras. I'm making all of this up, right? And says, so basically when we send things home, and although the homeroom mom's going to send a lot of stuff home, if you don't mind checking in with Juan's mom every now and then, maybe get her phone number, maybe try to make that connection and make sure that there's any questions that she can come ask you in case she's intimidated to ask me or doesn't know the homeroom mom. Would you kind of be that liaison? Apparently that has helped a lot of teachers in the Clinton schools. Sometimes and oftentimes it is the homeroom mom, but it doesn't have to be. It's just one other person in the class that says, hey, as you're getting information, I'll try to double check with Juan's parents, but could you also see about checking with them? And using sometimes the gatekeeper is an EL teacher like Dana, right? Where like if the mainstream teacher's like, look, I'm sending this stuff home and I'm not hearing anything back from their parents, then ask your EL teacher or tell your mainstream teachers that you can reach out on their behalf, right? Defend their culture. Be careful using words like weird, strange. We've tried to change the language even in my own house. We try not to even use the word normal because normal is so relative, right? So they don't even eat normal food. Well, what's normal? It's normal for them, right? And so we can say words like typical, right? Or typical for me. And so, or different, we like the word different, but strange, weird, funky, any kind of negative, we kind of change that because we want to defend what that looks like. Not going to read a list to you because you can do that, but there's one on 240 and it's in your book too. If you need a copy of it, let me know. The last little slide for us today is more on how do we structure those partnerships. I don't have a definite answer, but I do know that the research shows that parent involvement breeds success, and that parent involvement needs to be valued for parents to be involved. So again, they need to know that they have those rights, but we also have some big issues with participation and need to address them. The table, I'll list these, but you're welcome to read the descriptions more on page 241. If you can't tell, I'm hustling. That language can be an issue, right? Family structure and what that looks like, and how the family structure affects relationships. A lot of times, older children are responsible for younger children in the family. It is not uncommon for very family-focused cultures to they fully accept that their high schooler stays home from school because their elementary kid is sick and the mom can't miss work or the dad can't miss work. They do not really care about the absence for the high schooler. It's more important that high schooler maintain their responsibility to their family, right, and help out. School districts don't always see it that way. School districts see it more like who is truancy and things like that. Educational background and attitudes towards schooling, which we talked about. Knowledge and beliefs about education, right? It's almost like, depending on how long someone has been here, how much they know about the school systems in the States. And that is we focus so much for teachers on differentiated instructions in the classroom, and we teach about differentiated instruction, but we don't talk about differentiated family needs, right, for the school as a whole, like from the administration. But that's a real thing. And then the last one would be power and status, perceptions of, are parents and teachers equal? Are you dealing with a lot of times we think, oh, this is a very patriarchal society, and so they may not value me because I'm a woman teacher. Do a little background check on that, because even if that's true in a societal component, that may not be true for an educational component. That may not, like in their home school, in their home countries or where they're from, women are still like nurturing, and if they see teachers as nurturers, then you're not really running up against a father who disrespects you, right? Like you said, there's a lot of background, you can't just put that in, but there will be, although another thing to kind of structure some involvement would be literacy programs. That takes a lot of support and resources. If you have someone in your district who does the Title I stuff that would be open to that, there are lots of resources out there, but it does take work. And then the last thing is family reluctance and reprisal are real. They should be something the school is aware of and handles gently. That's a little bit what I was talking to. This is on page 243 when I was saying that to Cynthia about the immigration things. But some children in the schools are family members or illegal immigrants, which introduces emotional, if not legal, complexity into the family's relationship to the school, because immigration has been used as a wedge issue by national, state, and local political parties. Many families whose members are undocumented live in fear of exposure, arrest, or denial of services. But we are not allowed, schools are prohibited from using resident status as grounds for denying any educational services. And there are a couple of Supreme Court cases that really prohibit any limitations to people, especially children, based on their immigration status. And I don't think that that's clearly communicated, that is a like Supreme Court law. This is not something that's like that you have a choice in. I'll stop recording and then I'll stop.